Today is the SAVE Act, which is which is one of those things that people give the act a cute name that really is kind of contrary to what the effect will be. But what the Republican Party is trying to sell the MAGA base on is that there are lots of illegal aliens rushing across the border to vote illegally. Right? So that's kind of been part of the Republican MAGA big lie for a very long time, since before there was MAGA. MAGA is perhaps one vote short this weekend because it looks like DJT has excommunicated Tucker Carlson from the MAGA movement, and Marjorie Taylor Greene excommunicated herself. But the SAVE Act is kind of in the silly name aside. It's like, is a bump stock like a cute little thing? No, it's something to turn your rifle into a machine gun. Call it whatever you want. Give it a cute name. Make it give it more brand appeal, more curb appeal. Right? But what this act does is it enforces unreasonable ID requirements in such a way as to disenfranchise voters. And the big losers in this round of the SAVE Act are women, and not people that are, again, not recent arrivals, not day laborers traveling across the border. No, this is you and me. This is our neighbors. The the ones that are at a immediate risk are, women who got married and didn't change their name on or excuse me, that changed their name, and their, for instance, their name now no longer matches that on their birth certificate. That happens all the time. And what they're building into this, this act that passed the House, reports will suggest that it can't pass the Senate because it doesn't have the votes, filibuster, nuclear option, dot, dot, dot. But this would be a almost slam dunk assault on the tremendous margin the Democratic Party has going into the midterm elections. If you could disenfranchise, and this is not a few people around the margins, this is potentially 15 to 20 million voters, right? So it's a big deal. So we have to plan as if that it's likely that it'll get through the Senate. And what they'll do, my supposition is, I can't get into John Thune's head. I'd like to be as handsome as John Thune. Once again, the most attractive, most enigmatic and handsome coward in all of Washington, D.C., John Thune, the lead guy in the Senate. What is in his brain on this? What could they do? I believe that they're going to try to time it in such a way that they could get it across the finish line. And if nothing else, so much dissension creates so much doubt that it will keep people away from the polls. Right? So the ID requirement, we talked about, women or men that change their names, right? When they get married, they take the name of their partner, right? And that means that their birth certificate is no longer in the eyes of the states that are trying to champion this march. That will no longer be a valid form of ID. And so what they're doing as a neat little kind of shell game is they're trying to make the birth certificate one of the only ways, one of the two ways that you can prove that you are who you say you are for the purposes of voting, for registering and then casting your vote. And they're trying to add all these layers on. And you say, well, I got married. I took my partner's name. I got a new driver's license in my new name, my partner's name that I took, which is now my name. So I'm good, right? You would think so. That would make perfect sense. But what they're trying to do again to create this is like Putin tactics, right? Is to create doubt, to create dissension, to create confusion, particularly right before the event. The courts are supposed to protect against that and say, I'm not allowing you to do this shit this close to an election. That's not cool. But look, you have Alito and Thomas rumored to be looking for their exit ramp, or the exit ramp that Donald Trump is enforcing upon them. They will maybe see in their addled brains that this is a way to stamp their legacy on the conservative historical record of the Supreme Court. That they could leave their name on stealing this election for Trump against, what the polls are saying now is not an impossibility, but there's uh, uh, quite reasonably, there's a lot of great Democratic Party momentum. So what can you do? That's everybody can say fears, you know, we have fears of this happening, and people look at the calendar and they say, "Shit, I gotta register the kids for camp this summer. They've got one kid's not doing well in math. I got to get a tutor. It's not even spring break for my college kids yet. Uh, I'm doing my taxes. I can't think about this right now." Well, that's the thing. What the Trump administration, what Project 2025, what Stephen Miller, and what Vladimir Putin, who is operating in the background, right? What they are depending on is that we're all too busy and we all have the attention spans of a snail or worse. That we're trending in that direction with the help of Larry Ellison's evil TikTok toys and the Chinese Communist Party and Elon Musk and Twitter and our addiction to social media and just the constant notification, all of the things that go into. I'm not a psychiatrist. I may need one, or I may need another one. I'm not a psychologist, but everybody knows social media, TikTok, X, all of that, bad for kids. How good can it be for adults, right? Notification, notification, notification. You got mail. I'm going way back. You got attention span. You're getting a barrage, right? Life is moving faster. AI, Jesus Christ, what is AI going to do to my job, right? What is it going to do to our world? What's it doing to my kids? How come my kids just started a career in higher education, studying one thing, and perhaps that is not going to be a career. They're not going to be as many lawyers. Not going to be. My kid just went to school to be an accountant. Now, of course, they can be the best accountant ever and be in demand by EY and PwC and everybody else because they're the best. But if you're taking a whack of 75% of the accountants that are working today, whatever that tally is, 75% of the current tally will not be there will not be you know what I'm getting at. That the overall demand for live human accountants will go down by 75% in the universe in the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. What that is exactly, we don't know yet. Anybody that tells you Sam Altman and Dario, while they're fighting about what a dick Pete Hegseth is and all of that, we just don't know because it's happening too quickly to even the experts, in air quotes, have no idea. What can we do about this the SAVO? Well, we have to keep focused on the fact we can't let it get through the Senate, right? There will be challenges, but what my biggest concern is that they will work out a game timing in such a way that they get it through and enacted into law at a point where it will affect the elections. And then, if it's ruled unconstitutional a year after the election, and and the Republicans win the midterm, yeah, great. It's like late breaking news, right? No. So we have to prepare as if that the Senate will try to that it may be Donald Trump may put maximum pressure on the Senate to do the nuclear option, right? Fuck the filibuster. Be a nice T-shirt and get it into law. Now, still, the Constitution is clear that the states control the elections. But if you look at, there was the case in Arizona, and that was in 2024 when the Supreme Court said, well, actually, what you can do is it's a state election, so you can do all of these voter ID requirements, but only for state elections. And what they tried to do in Arizona was they packaged state and federal elections together. And the court said, no, you got to strip out the federal portion of this, and you can only allow the state election part to go through. But what that did for the Supreme Court is, oh, there's a pathway. It may be narrow, but we can carve out a pathway and somehow normalize the idea of putting these onerous ID requirements that will disenfranchise, like I said, women, other people that the elderly. You can't. You live in certain places. You are not that swift with that whole internet thing that seems to be catching on with the kids. How do you get a certified copy of your birth certificate? And then there's the cost issue, because the way that in a world where people of goodwill wanted to ensure that everyone had the same valid identification, you could do you could eliminate the State Department could say, you know what, passports are free. Everybody run down to your local post office or do it online, and everybody gets a passport. There, you walk into the polling station and you say, here, look, picture, not that pretty in the picture. I'm not that pretty in person, but same guy, right? So this is a valid US passport, stamped, all of the watermarks and things like that. That's all I need to cast my vote. So, F off, get your ballot concierges with ICE non-ID tags and masks that are pooling 1,000 feet away from the voting area, whatever it is that Trump's going to do to try to intimidate voters. But I got my passport. That means I was born in the United States. I'm entitled to vote. Registration is important. You got to get that done. But then they're nibbling. But that, if you're a first time, not a renewal, but if you're a first time passport applicant, I think, including the application fee, I think it's about $165. Not everybody has an extra $165 with Vladimir Putin's $93 a barrel oil and everything that's going to do to uh, to the oil market. Now, yes, I understand that Vladimir's oil does not sell for $93. The Ural oil sells at substantially less, but we kind of went through that the other day on how he can play the futures when he's driving OPEC plus. Don't worry about Vladimir. He made over $1 billion since the war started just on the oil without any poly market action, right? Without any Kalshi action. He's winning, our boy, and his hand is in our elections as it was going back to 2016. But what can we do to prepare? So there's the best way. We're in March. The best way to ensure is you verify properly registered to vote, verify signed up for mail-in balloting, all your administrative ducks in a row. You get together, you make sure if you're the quote unquote head of household, meaning woman, wife or partner or otherwise. If you are running a household, it's your responsibility. Take it upon yourself as if you don't have enough shit to do. But you check, make sure everybody is registered properly and everybody's passport is up to date and will not expire before the next election. You do that, you're well ahead of the game. Then, if you have the energy and you're that kind of person and you're a loudmouth like I am, then take one step outside of your family, in your friend group, in your church group, in your community center, in your bowling league, whatever it is, right? Wherever you socialize, wherever the fellow drunks at the bar, whoever you hang out with. Maybe if you feel comfortable doing it, dude, dudette, whomever. Are you XYZ? Are you signed up for mail-in balloting? Are you registered to vote? Is your voter ID up to date? This may not happen, but it's the kind of discipline that you have to take because they will do everything possible, legally or otherwise, to cause dissension such that the Republicans can maintain control of the House and Senate. So you have to assume that crazy things are going to happen, that things that were unforeseeable, like electing a game show host to be president and then reelecting him and almost doing it, in 2020 also. Unforeseeable things happen, it seems, more frequently these days. So prepare as if, right? So the best option, valid passport. Nobody can argue. That's your picture. It's new. It's expensive. It's expensive. And I was looking today to see if there was any, certain state and federal agencies, limited income determination sort of discounts on certain things. I was trying to figure out whether there was a program that helped defray the cost if we're trending in that direction, and we can't wait until it happens. So we have to get the ID now. Can you get a discount on the passport? The answer is no. It's controlled essentially by Marco Rubio, right? Who was fluffing Trump in Doral, a city I actually lived in for a very short period of time, which is part of Miami, a million and a half years ago. But Trump was there talking absolute batshit. And then earlier this morning, putting some shit flowing out on his True Social, which was even insane by his standards. So if you have the stomach for it, look back, and I'm going to post a couple things later. I'm just kind of it was kind the as I've mentioned before, I only opened up a TikTok account on January 1 this year, not because I wanted to be on TikTok, but I wanted to understand what was going to happen as the Ellison Chinese Communist Party going into this election and again in 28, what the TikTok influence was going to be. And you can already see, you see platform friends like Aaron Parnas, right, is getting limited on TikTok already, right? His posts are getting put in timeout. Other people are experiencing the same thing. People are getting booted off, right? I'm not a big enough player on TikTok or otherwise to be of concern on this particular day. But there's you think of, I mean, it doesn't take a lot of imagination. One of the president's main supporters, the third or fourth or fifth or sixth richest guy in the universe, Larry Ellison, controlling this influential platform, and he finds Democratic Party influencers. Of course, they're going to fuck with you. That's what they're there to do. They're going to break every rule to get the Republican Party a layup. Jason Tatum's back. Celtics fans, yeah, that's international news. Jason Tatum back from injury, looking really good, really good. I don't know what he got in the first game back. It was something like what did he have? 10 and 4, 15, 10 and 7, something really good. Just wow. See a nice young man like that come back from injury. I mean, yeah, bit of a Celtics fan. Yeah. Okay, so passport, you're like $165. That's beyond my ability. That's my above my pay grade. I can't do that, right? So the one thing, do what you can control. If you can't afford to do that, revert to what the other ID, the other valid state or federal ID. Look at your registry of motor vehicles. Go to the real ID, right, which has watermarks, and make sure that you're current there. That your driver's license is if you're a driver, your driver's license. If you're not a driver, like some old blind guy, then your state issue ID, the equivalent, is up to date. That it didn't go through the washer and the dryer 27 times like I used to do all the time when I was young, and maybe drinking. Uh, okay, so that you got the driver's license. That's self-explanatory. Get that. Are they going to make it so in every state that that driver's license itself is not enough to identify yourself for the purposes of voting? They're going to try, but all you can do is control what you can control. So where's your birth certificate? If you have a birth certificate, look at it. Is it a certified, is it an original? If you're as old as I am and it's an original, then it's dust. So did you get some years back? It's kind of like a chain, right? So if you needed to renew, you let your passport go out of date. So you looked at what is the ID I need to get a new passport? Do I have a birth certificate? No, I can go on this website, and for an extra $7, I can get a certified copy of my birth certificate, my certificate of live birth from wherever you were born. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, and you can do that online. So you get that one piece of paper. You get your certificate of live birth, your birth certificate. Okay, so I have that. That's in my folder, right? It's kind of silly. Reportedly we're in 2026 if we're not living in a sim right now. But we need these tangible forms of identification. We're not doing retina scans. No, Billy Joe, Ellie Mae, and Jethro were not down with that shit either. So we have to play by the rules that are on the books now until we are able to change them. So you can do the birth certificate. Okay, I was born in Ohio. I'm going to contact Cuyahoga County, which is where Cleveland is, and I'm going to get that updated, certified copy of my birth certificate. That's done. I'm looking at my driver's license or my state issued ID. Is it the old version that I just renewed online a few times, or is it the official real ID? Got to get a real ID, right? It's coming anyway. You have to do it eventually in any case if you haven't done it so far. I think most states have mandated that residents have to get a real ID by, I think it was by last year. But if not, then do it in any case because that's a better form of identification. So you've got your birth certificate, you've got your real ID. How about how about your voter registration card? Though that's not a picture ID, but you want to buttress, you want to, excuse the expression, you want a bulwark against the state telling you that you cannot vote. You want a bulwark against interference. So stack those things up. Go on your state's um, website and make a determination of the acceptable forms of ID. A lot of states, nothing required. In the long term, if you think about it, and of course, what I want is free and fair elections. If everybody's on the same playing field, you can reasonably argue that why in 2026 do we not enforce valid state picture ID in all 50 states? That's a reasonable argument. That's a reasonable argument. But don't worry about reasonable. Worry about what does the law say today, and what's it likely to be in the first Tuesday in November. The second part of that we don't know because they're going to be trying to chip away and blow things up before that. Well, all we can do is prepare. So try to just stay tuned. Get maybe set yourself up with reminders in your calendar, right? That did you submitted the application and it said that your certified copy of your birth certificate was due to arrive within 5 business days from Los Angeles County, wherever you were born. Set a reminder, make sure you got it. Good. Double check. Have enlist the help of your partner, of your kids. They're smarter and they see better. And have them, make it a family project. Okay. I want you to challenge me. I want you to make sure that I'm registered. I want you to make sure that I'm signed up for mail-in balloting. They're also playing with that. This new law has a lot of components that may not pass ultimate muster, but they're going to throw, it's going to be the spaghetti at the wall thing where they're going to try everything they possibly can and then see in committee when things are reconciled how many of the intrusive new voter ID requirements slip through and make it into a law, because that's a win for the Republican establishment, right? So, you have you've been able to vote where you live with your student ID. You have to assume that ain't going to continue. You have to assume that, as a baseline, that every American citizen is going to have to provide a valid real ID, either driver's license or state issue ID, in order to vote. Just go on that assumption. That's like minimum conditions. But if you have what I would suggest, if you have the financial means and you don't have a current passport, if you have, if it's expiring, it's not 165. That's the renewal fee. So whatever that is, I don't know, but it's probably half of that, and they're good for 10 or more years. Um, I should have looked at my passport, and I would have been a little bit smarter, but maybe not. I would, the best thing, again, if you can piss away $165, think of it as an investment in democracy. You got You got kids and they don't, or family members, and they can't afford that, then maybe that's a birthday present. You say, "Hey, yeah, I let it expire and I'm not traveling and where am I? I'm not going anywhere. Or, Epstein Island is closed, so I can't travel anymore. I'm not going to go. Um, maybe inspire them. Say, hey, I'd like as a holiday present. We've got what do we got? You know, Christmas is coming, people's birthday. There's Passover's coming, Easter's coming, and all sorts of other things. Let me do that. Let me do this for you as a present for Easter, for Passover. Allow me as a gift to renew your passport, just in case Jethro and Ellie Mae do something crazy with these laws, and all of a sudden, 2 weeks before the election, John Thune, big handsome smile on his fucking face, says, "I regret to inform you that if you intend to cast a ballot in this year's election, you're going to have to show up with a passport. Have you got it yet?" I have it on good authority that processing times are not speeding up, right? Because they can. It's kind of like the U.S. mail service. It's the the passport processing. There's a two-tier involvement with the U.S. Postal Service. You could do a passport online, but lots of people, especially older folks, are used to going to their local post office and doing it there. Post office is slow. They're going to slow down the mail on purpose if they can going into elections, because that part of this bill, this law, this proposed law, there's a component about those ballots that were cast on time but weren't received until after voting day. That's a part of it, right? So they can chip away at a little bit more. Of course, they're standing up and saying we're patriotic. So, if you're a veteran, we're not doing any of this to you, except we're going to do it to you. You know, they'll do whatever they can do. They're going to try to figure out a way to screen through with uh, AI and otherwise, and Pam Bondi. The other part of this, and I think I've been going on long enough today. But the other part that's interwoven with this bill, which again passed the House already, is trying to compel states in the interest of waste, fraud, abuse, which is like saying anti woke, de all of the silly MAGA shit that people say, right? Waste, fraud, and abuse. There ain't no waste, fraud. There is waste, fraud, and abuse. You know, most of it's in Donald Trump's diaper. It's elsewhere too, right? Of course, governments are large. They're not fixed by Doge. Doge breaks things, and then they don't fix them, right? They make things work poorly, like your countrymen and women who were stranded in Dubai, unable to get home because the embassy staff was not available to help them. You heard, the recordings and the website I posted in the feed earlier today from the State Department, or no, that's Homeland Security. They put that little tag on the webpage, the one where you check about terrorism activity that you check before you travel, right? So there's a State Department component to that, separate website, and they have a watch list, places that you have to be careful. Somebody's out there trying to shuffle something. The remnants of ice. So that'll annoy me, and it'll maybe annoy you. So I'll try to speed up a little bit here. So, but there's also the Department of Homeland Security, right? And what that website said in the middle top right corner, it says, which is one of the excuses. It's kind of like DEI, is we have to slow down our processing because Democrats are not approving the funding we need to protect you in America against terrorism. No, they got plenty of money. They got plenty of money in Department of Defense. They got plenty of money in Homeland Security and ICE and Border. All of the divisions have plenty of money. They just want to be able to make a political point to say that Democrats are against efforts to fight against terrorism. So there's that little label that says, due to government funding shortages and shutdowns, we're not keeping this website up to date. Okay, that's fine. But the last time they updated the website that warns about terrorist threats, it was August 25, right? So, yeah. So 6 months ago, there were shutdowns, but not consistent throughout. They just they doged themselves in the ass, right? They cut things, and all of a sudden they can't do basic government functions, and they try to explain it away and waste, fraud. She was a DEI hire, and all sorts of the silly ass bullshit that the MAGA cult repeat over and over again, right? Because part of the repetition, the part of impressing the lie upon the weak-minded is to repeat it over and over again. And that's what Trump does masterfully, is he says, think about way back in the day. I mean, going back to Putin's first victory in 2016, right? Fake news, fake news, fake news ringing in your ear, right? Every time he opened his mouth, before he ordered dinner, he said fake news. Before he asked for extra special sauce for the Big Mac that he eventually threw against the wall in the residence in the White House, he said fake news, because it's like a mantra to him and by extension to Mega. So they are programmed to say those things. You got TDS. She was a DEI hire. Fake news, fake news, fake news. Woke, 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 woke. Right? It's it's like it's almost hypnotic, because if you repeat a lie enough, then it becomes less objectionable, and then eventually you surrender and say, I heard it so much. There must be there must be a modicum of truth associated with it, because otherwise, why would nobody's going to lie to me 100 times in a row just because. Welcome to Trumpland, right? And the golf course, and today, the presentation. I was it was tugging at my heartstrings. If anybody was watching this morning, early for Trump, right? He was with the group of Latin American leaders, right? The presidents or other leaders of a dozen Latin American countries that he invited, and they met at his resort. So he's getting paid for official state duties, right? Which happens, and it's happened in his property in DC. And Marco Rubio got up, and it was kind of it was like a kind of a neat Bad Bunny throwback where um, Marco looked over his shoulder at Trump and said, a lot of the people that are here are from from Latin America. Some of them speak Spanish. Do you mind, sir, if I'm going to give my remarks also in Spanish? And Trump was like, yeah, isn't Marco great? Maybe he's better in Spanish than he is, whatever he was saying. But Trump wasn't triggered by that like he was by Bad Bunny, right? So Marco and then Pete Hegseth was, I only speak, he said, not I speak English. He said, I only speak American, sir. You know, what kind of dick is that? Right. Even if you think it, you don't have to say it because you have service members under your authority as the Secretary of Defense, not war, defense, that are that were Spanish speakers when they were primarily Spanish speakers when they were born, right? Why would you do that? Why would you demean your own soldiers, sailors, and airmen by saying something that's racist? They do it all the time. Why would you do that? So they're at Doral, right, which is the Trump National Resort and Golf Club, is the former Doral that was built in the 1960s by the Caskel family, which was Carroll Management, New York, the Doral Hotel chain, right? Nice group of hotels they had back in the day. I used to stay at the Doral Court, which was at 37th and Lex when I was in New York because it was a small hotel and it was less expensive than the Waldorfs and things like that. And yeah, wonderful. So this great golf course complex of golf. It used to be 5 golf courses. Now it's 4. It used to the big dog is the Blue Monster, which is the internationally famous golf course at Doral that they used to use it for PGA Tour events, right? And so they had or have they had blue, gold, red, silver, and white. They've eliminated the white course. I don't play golf any longer because I don't see well enough to know where the ball is or where it's going. So that takes kind of the fun out of it. But I appreciate the real estate. I wouldn't play there, of course, because unlike a lot of other Trump properties that were licensing agreements that just he got paid to put his name on various buildings. He didn't own them, right? He but the Doral is a different animal, and he actually he through friends or not, he actually owns it. So, and so now it's 4 courses instead of 5. It's still magnificent. In later years, I may have, yeah. It's a neat place. Um, Went there once and watched a young properly double X member of the family hit golf balls before. So yeah, it's beautiful and it's a shit ton warmer than where I'm sitting right now in northern Massachusetts. So I'm jealous, but not jealous enough to spend a dollar that will go into Donald Trump's pocket. He's got plenty of money, you know, just from the Saudis, just from the Emiratis, you know. Yeah. So do like we talked about in the earlier election episode. Be prepared. I think that's the Boy Scouts, right? Get your ducks in a row. How old am I? Expression like that. ID. Is it valid? Is it updated? Is it going to become invalid between now and the election? Do I have my passport? Is that valid? If I don't have it, do I have the resources to get a valid passport? If I don't have the resources, do I have a family member that will help me get it to make it easier? I mean, you think about forget about old crackers like yours truly, but think about other folks that have healthier skin tones that are going to be facing uh, additional disruption in the process of registering to vote and casting their ballots in places that are going to change like they did down in Texas. Last minute changes to voting to the voting times at the polls, last minute changes, the silly shit they do. Oh no, we had to move the ballot box, the drop off location because it was going to rain. So we had to move the ballot box drop off into the middle of the local police station, right in the SWAT unit. So the ballot box is there. Just so go ahead and as long as you feel comfortable dropping it off in the midst of some highly trained Gomers, then that's where your ballot drop off location is. No longer down the street at mine's down the street at the fire station. You know, easy to get to, easy to get in and out. You know, can walk to it. It's secure, but in other places it's more challenging. So just make a checklist. Help your family members get it done. It's they will be throwing curveballs and disinformation campaigns around this, whether they get the votes or not. It's going to be, they will make it sound as if it's a done deal. They will make it sound like, oh no, you are now required to have a passport when you're not, because they will just repeat the lie over and over enough to create enough doubt. And then your Aunt Lucy is going to say, I don't need this shit. I'm not going to vote this time because I just don't. You know what I mean? So that's what we're fighting against, the disinformation machine that is the Project 2025 Donald Trump campaign. Not even on the ballot, but he really is, because he wants the win in the midterms, because it's for him, it's a validation of the crazy ass international adventurism that he promised he wasn't going to do if he were elected. He needs that validation because he's a spoiled, grievance-filled, silly man, and so he wants that. The last thing I'll leave you with is the other issues they are threatening at the margins. How are they going to otherwise interrupt the legal process of voting? We know about the troop issue, that it's not legal for them to station troops at polling places. But when you sequence your wars, this is a war, Iran is a war, Venezuela, maybe not, Cuba. Wasn't a war when we dropped bombs on Nigeria, but we dropped bombs, right? Wherever else in Africa Trump decides to drop bombs, not going to be a war, but it's going to create disruption. But the War Powers Act gives him tremendous latitude, gives any president tremendous latitude to do things around security. Imagine just for the mental exercise. The other thing is there is a major, our CIA intercepted communications between ISIS groups in the wherever. Pick, oh no, it has to be. It has to be. It has to be Boko Haram, and it has to be ISIS groups in um, in Somalia, of course, because he has to take a swipe at uh, Ms. Omar, right? Uh, Ilan Omar, the distinguished representative from the great state of Minnesota, right? So he's going to say, we have our CIA, best intelligence organization in the world, other than the GRU and the Mossad, is intercepted communications that suggest that there's going to be a major terrorist event 2 days before voting in your pants, Donald Trump, and in Chicago. So what we are doing is we are detailing security personnel, uniformed and otherwise, masked and otherwise, only about 10,000 of them, They won't go anywhere nearer than 125 steps from the voting places, but only in black and brown neighborhoods. But trust us, it's going to go fine. Right? So the play it out, right? The strategic planning exercise, right? The scenario planning, what you have to think about, so you're not surprised. You know, it's not like don't get yourself worked into a nervous. Don't make yourself a nervous wreck. Don't uh, don't get you and your family so caught up in your brain about all the things they could do. That's not my purpose here. What I would like to do is to get people to realize it's like, oh, if they could do that really fucked up thing they just did last week, pick anything, war or otherwise, right? He's been talking about sanctioning Vladimir Putin, the real leader. He's been talking about sanctions, restrictive, punishing sanctions against Russia since he's been in office. How many have happened? He talked about helping Ukraine since he's come to office. I mean, there was the embarrassment at the White House, all of that, but there is bipartisan support to help Ukraine against Russia, but it doesn't get done because the White House stomps on it. Right? They the efforts in the EU, NATO, all of those efforts to help, it gets done a little bit at a time. They need a lot more patriots. They need more defense. They're fighting like you would be if you are not Ukrainian. You would want to adopt a Ukrainian because they are absolutely fucking fantastic. They're brave, and they don't. There's no quit. There's no day off. Right, for Ukrainian warriors, they're depleted. They're exhausted. Desertion rates are higher. Of course they are. They're human, right? But we should be proud to call them our allies, even though Donald Trump and the Republican Party are treating them like shit repeatedly, over and over again, disrespecting Ukrainians, proud, brave fighters, democratic country, democratic institutions with flaws, like we can fucking talk, right? Like with a flawed democracy, you know, get out of there. Get out of here with that. So, yeah, so pleasure. Wishing you a beautiful afternoon, and we'll maybe do something Sunday before. What was the other issue we were gonna? Oh, we were definitely going to get back on a broader Larry Ellison TikTok election interference rant, but that's almost evergreen. I wanted to take another day away from the war. Not not that I am opposed to giving grace to our fighters, to uh, undermanned and undersupplied Kurdish friends that may help us, even though it's going to, the greatest risk, of course, is the kind of splintering of what is already there in Iran. If you're arming Kurds over Azaris and the Persian, then what are you doing to the cohesiveness of the next phase in in Iranian democratic history? It's complicated, obviously. That's why they used to have highly competent people advising in the US government, and now we just have Marco Rubio doing everything, right? So, great. Thank you again. Retweet, restack, fluff it, and and subscribe, and have a friend subscribe, and do whatever else you would like to do. Thank you very much, and have a great night.